top 10 most valuable Marvel comics of the year 1994. This is a very interesting list. This is right at the peak of when the 90s industry was at its craze of massive high print runs. But due to that, most of the massive print run books are not worth much these days. It's the rare books that have now turned out to be the valuable ones. In our top 10, we have 3 major key issues, but 7 of our top 10 are on this list because of their rarity. So let's dive in. Based on the Overstreet annual price guide, prices for near mint 9.2 raw copies. Here's the top 10 ranked. Starting at number 10 of the year, we have Deadpool #1. This is the second Deadpool miniseries. In fact, lots of demand for this character, which was all the rage and still is today. This issue also features the first Marvel Comics work by creator Mark Waid. This issue features Black Tom Cassidy, Juggernaut, Banshee, and Siren, and cover art by Ian Churchill. Print run estimated at 585,000 copies for this #1 of a new mini-series. It ranks 10th most valuable Marvel comic of the year and 111th most valuable Marvel comic of the 1990s. There are 545 copies now graded by CGC in all grades. There are 421 copies grading 9.6 or higher. Heritage Auctions has sold only 22 copies since the year 2000. That's averaging 1 a year. This has a white background cover. In the Overstreet price guide, this is still quite an affordable book. You only have to be worth $26 or more in near mint to make the top 10. So at low grades, this book is super affordable. Most people not even looking for low grades on a book that's cheap. So $26 now for 9.2. If you want to see how the high grade CGC slab copies are doing, check out the gpanalysis.com or look up eBay sales and see what prices are being set. On the census overall, there are 290 9.8s and 131 9.6s of this key book. Number 9 of the year is Iron Man 304. Now, this makes the list for a couple of reasons. It's the first Hulkbuster armor issue, and it's also an early appearance of Thunderstrike. This comic also features a bound-in trading card sheet, so a lot of copies won't have that in it anymore. Print run estimated at only 111,000 copies, which was pretty low for a Marvel title in 1994. Ranks 9th of the year and 93rd of the decade. There are only 162 copies graded, 79 super high grade copies. Heritage has never sold any copies of this book. In the Overstreet price guide, no movement at all in low grade because it's a really cheap book still, but it's been slowly sneaking up in higher grades, now at $32. And we can see there are 28 9.8s and 51 9.6s on the census. Number 8 is G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero 154. This is the second last issue of the entire series, which would run for about 12 years. But this is actually the smallest print run issue of the entire run. Print run, believable, at 33,000 copies. Now you have to remember, at this time, print runs of comics like Venom were hitting 1 million copies a month, but this had a print run of 33,000. The title was about to being canceled because it was no longer popular. But due to that, now these late G.I. Joe issues are quite valuable. There's 118 copies graded on the census, 50 9.6s or higher. Heritage has never sold a copy of this issue. It's the second last issue. It's been a key issue for quite a while now. No movement at all. This book has been completely stalled for an entire decade in all grades in the Overstreet price guide. Yet the census is still sneaking up there. People do want this in their collection. There are 16 9.8s and 34 9.6s, which brings us to the next book on our countdown, which is G.I. Joe 153, the third last issue of the series. Print run 35,000 copies, ranked 7th of the year, 67th of the decade, 105 copies graded, 56 high grade. Heritage sold 2 of them. Nice artwork on these later issues. Again, completely stalled in the Overstreet price guide. These later issues all at $38 for high grade copies raw. On the census, there are 33 9.8s, 23 9.6s, which then brings us to G.I. Joe 152, the fourth last issue. Print run also at 35,000. 129 on the census, 63 high grade, 1 at Heritage Auction sold. This is special anniversary cover. And again, $38 stalled in all grades. There are 25 9.8s and 38 9.6s, which brings us to G.I. Joe 151, the 5th last issue, also print run, estimated at 35,000 copies, 5th of the year, 65th of the decade. There are 92 copies graded by CGC in all grades, 37 high grade. Heritage has only sold 1. Pink background cover on this one, and stalled in all grades, $38. There are 16 9.8s and 21 9.6s. Okay, so those books were all kind of bulked up in the same price range, which jumps us quickly up the list now into 4th place of the year. It's G.I. Joe 150, special giant size anniversary issue. It contains pinups by main artists like Ron Lim and Sal Buscema. It's the 6th last issue of the series. Print run was a little higher, but still quite low at 47,000 copies. Extremely low for a Marvel title, especially comparing it to the superhero books. Ranks 4th of the year, 59th of the decade, 126 copies graded, 47 high grade, 2 sold at Heritage. Nice action cover on this one. Again, stalled in all grades, but sitting a little higher at $40. There are 29.8s, 27 9.6s. Well, now that G.I. Joe has dominated most of our list, now we get to the top 3. We have a new title. In 3rd place, we have Web of Spider-Man 118, the Scarlet Spider's first solo story, and Venom also appears in this issue. There's a Marvel subscription insert in this issue you got to watch for. Stephen Butler cover and art, print run estimated at 200,000 copies, ranks 3rd of the year, 23rd of the decade, over 1,000 copies graded by CGC, 472 super high grade copies. Heritage has sold 5 of these. In the Overstreet price guide, it had a nice jump just in the last year, still very affordable in low grades, but it's now a $90 book. 198 9.8s, 264 9.6s. In 2nd place of the year, it is G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero 155. This is the sought after last issue of the series. Print run estimated at a very low 35,000 copies. This is the issue most collectors want. It ranks 2 of the year, 15th of the entire decade. There are 725 copies graded. We've got many of the main characters featured on this cover. 315 high-grade copies. Heritage has even sold 8 of them. Still not many, though. And a nice big jump. The book doubled in low grades this year in the Overstreet price guide, and now it's a $120 book. There are 115 9.8s and 200 9.6s, bringing us to the #1 most valuable comic that everybody wants from 1994, and everybody's having a tough time finding it. And this is a big mystery book of the year. It is Incredible Hulk 377. It is the 3rd printing in this lime green cover on the left. But what's interesting about this issue is that 377 actually came out 3 years earlier. Massive print run, even had a 2nd printing because people love the cover. But for some reason, 3 years later, they released a 3rd printing, different green tone cover. But the print run's really small, and we're not sure why it was released. It's possible that it was promoted with a game or a tie-in with a TV show or something, but we don't know why this 3rd printing came out 3 years after the 1st and 2nd printings. But regardless, print run is estimated to be possibly only 20,000 copies. It's the #1 most valuable Marvel comic of the year and ranked 6th of the entire decade. The census is growing on this book, though. There are 335 copies, 49 high grade, but Heritage still has not sold any of this book. In the Overstreet price guide, demand has been strong for this book for almost a decade now. And so you can see if you bought it a decade ago, you could have got it for 50 cents for low grade copies. So the book has actually gone up 24 times in price in the last decade in low grades. And look at high grades. It's gone from $3 to $275. You do the math. That is like 90 times growth in a decade for this book. It's just caught on fire like crazy. On the census, you can compare the 3 printings, and you can see the 3rd printing, even though it's the most valuable, still has the least number of copies on the census, proving its true rarity. There are only 9 9.8s and 40 9.6s. Now, what we're going to do is compare these top 10 books on the CGC census to see which books truly are rare on the census and which ones are getting graded the most. Well, this is sort of a quiet year for truly major key first appearance books. So the book with the most copies on the census is Web of Spider-Man 118. It's the only book that passes the 1,000 mark. But most of the books on this list have only 150 or less copies. So amazing how low it is. Even the Deadpool's not that high at 545. On the high end, notice that not a single book on this list has a 9.9, but they all have 9.8s. And the book that stands out the most actually is the Deadpool #1 with 290 9.8s. And on the low end, it's the Hulk 377, only 9 copies graded in 9.8. There you go, the top 10 books of Marvel for 1994. We continue this series year by year. We're doing this series every week. So please subscribe to this channel, and we thank you for watching.